So my name's Mikey, and I run the farm alongside my partner Karen and also a team of two others, Jay and Charlotte. So we're out here in the main ridge on the Mornington Peninsula. The farm's name is Mossy Willow Farm, and it's about 1.2 acre bio-intensive, no-till, organic vegetable farm. I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but that's essentially kind of the practices that we pull together to make what we do happen. Our main sales outlets are the farmers markets. So we have two farmers markets on a Saturday and a Sunday in the city. We have our farm gate just over there, which we sell out of every Saturday. And we also sell to local grocery stores, restaurants and supermarkets. Healthier crops come through this relationship with obviously very healthy soil. More and more research is coming out that practices linked to over-tillage and over-pulverizing soil and inverting it basically weakens your soil profile and destroys all the biology and the nutrients the capacity of the soil to hold onto those. So we started toying around with those ideas. We spent some time in the United States on a number of farms working with those in order to create a method which we would be very low impact. We are very specific on the crops we choose to grow, so a lot of quick high turnover crops that bring in a high yield per square foot. The spacing that we also utilise, so a lot of the larger scale farms with tractors, there's a lot of space that's dedicated to the movement of tractors and the spacing required to cultivate those areas. Because it's all manual here, there are 4 staff full-time in the fields. As you can see from behind, there's very tight spacing. We can get in here and get a lot of like easy movement, but also as we're building the soil profile, the soil is able to accommodate more and more crops. So we can actually get more and more intensive spacing as the season goes over. So I like to say that in our early year, let's just say we were getting 150 carrots out of a 30-row bed. Now we're getting up to 350, sometimes even 400 bunches of carrots out of a 30-metre bed. So over the years, improving the soil is improving our ability to even become more and more profitable as we go. We have a number of field blocks that we grow the vegetables in, and in between every field block we've got a row dedicated to perennials. This one here is an endemic row of perennials, so endemic species to Main Ridge, not even Red Hill. We went very specific to Main Ridge, which we've seen, it's incredible. Some of these were only planted about 1.5 years ago and they're already well over my head, so they've caught on really fast. There are two main goals. One is windbreaks, so a huge amount of protection is given to the crops over there by having this windbreak here, and we know that wind can cause a lot of damage, it can dehydrate crops, so that's one element. The second one is fungal life. So though we practice no-till, fungal species tend to enjoy a lot more areas that have a lot of woodiness underneath. So we've got a lot of wood mulch under there and they enjoy perennials. So we've seen in areas of beautiful flushes throughout the year, and then even that creeping into the bed, which is beautiful to see those fungal networks actually creeping out. So they are established there, but because we're moving through the fields and the vegetables pulling out, there's a lot more disturbance. So making sure that we've got not only bacterial life in the fields, there's also fungal life, which is very important. The other one is trying to establish some sort of habitat for insects and other species. So research came out of UC Davis in the States that was talking about also the distances between areas. So there's about 30 metres between our windrows, which is basically an ideal distance. A lot of things like snakes and lizards and frogs are willing to kind of leave the habitat, go out, feed and come back to protection. So we have seen through here a lot of smaller birds coming in, nesting in here, jumping out and basically predating on butterflies. So we have a lot of butterflies, a lot of cabbage moth that comes through. So having this here, it's not going to save the fields from it. We still have a lot of other measures that we do, but having this in here that enables things like, as I said, things like frogs, things like the small birds, definitely helps to reduce that. And also on a human level, it's gorgeous. So a farm should be a very beautiful place in my opinion, something that inspires the workers to get out there and enjoy what they're doing. And I often find people walking past and just standing there for a moment and enjoying. We have a lot of flowers that basically, they're flowering at different times in the year. We have a lot of birds and native insects coming in at different times of the year, so pollination is increased. So yeah, it's gorgeous. It's a very beautiful thing. These are native, they're to encourage a different variety of different birds. And we basically chose the bird boxes to link up with some of the pest pressure that we want to eradicate. So owls they predate along field mice, for example. We've got microbats eating a huge amounts of insect life at night time. So we haven't seen, they're only new, say about 6 months old. We haven't seen any birds nesting in there yet, but we see a lot of birds at least perching on the top. So they're coming up, they're landing, they're surveying the area and flying off. So we'll see over time if it works, but in the meantime, at least it's something that's quite attractive. So I was saying before that it seems to be the biggest pest that we've had over the years has been bird pressure. So rabbits haven't been a big one, kangaroos haven't been a big one, and most of the insects haven't been a good one. And I think, again, the insects, the healthier the plants, the better they've got an immunity essentially to defend themselves from those things. But birds have been a huge one. So here you can really see we've had duck pressure. The strategy we essentially use over the years has been, it's a timing one. So we're planting out a crop, and not all crops are susceptible to ducks. So they only seem to peck out on, say, brassicas are a huge one. So bok choy, tatsoi, a lot of the Asian greens, broccolis. What we'll do is we'll plant them out. We'll have them covered with a net almost immediately. So planted, watered, covered. And we'll leave that on for a couple of weeks until they mature out to, say, something closer to this age, and then we can uncover and move the net. So there's a cost involved in obviously purchasing the net, though the amount of damage it's prevented basically paid off the net tenfold in one season anyway. Once they get to something like this, there may be some damage, but the plant is large enough that it will continue growing, and at some stage, already a broccoli crop at that stage, the birds aren't really going near it too much, or if they are, they're pecking some of the outside older leaves, so the plant's still photosynthesizing. Yeah, so on the farm, we grow 35 different vegetables, and then of those different vegetables, a number of varieties in there that suit the different times of the year. And over the last, say, 3.5 years, we've been tracking which grow best here and which sell the best at market. So carrots are one of our best crops. I think we grow a beautiful carrot. It's very sweet, and financially it brings back some really good numbers per square foot and also time in the field. So we had a goal of essentially having fresh carrots at the farmer's market every single week of the year. During the summer months, that's pretty easy to do. Coming into winter, people start to use storage carrots, but going to the farmers markets and people see the green tops, they realise it's fresh and they're willing to pay the extra $1 for it. So it was worth our while trying to work out how to grow them and how to effectively have them at every single week. So behind us, you can kind of see that you can see the successions of carrots. We're in late May, aren't we? We're in late May at the moment. So over here, we've got one that was sowed say 3.5 weeks ago. So they've germinated, and they're not going to grow very fast this time of year, but they're going to sit there and slowly mature over the winter. Over here was one that was grown a few weeks before that. So they're already popped up, photosynthesizing nicely, and they'll mature quite slowly over the winter, and then we'll be fresh picking them in, I'd say, early spring. And over there, we've got ones that we'll be fresh picking in the middle of winter. And like we said, at this point in time, we're probably getting between close to 300, 350 bunches at the moment for a 30-metre row. That's bunches of carrots, not individual carrots. Yeah, we direct sow them, and we do no thinning. So they're in the field, direct sown, and we sit there and pick. There you go. So these are the carrots essentially, end product. You know, they don't have the same uniformity as some of the other ones, so various sizes, but as a Dutch carrot, you know, nothing wrong with that. A couple of stubbies. Bloody hell, an organic carrot for you, mate. Well, first of all, the location's kind of cool. It's we've got, you know, biological solar panels here in the field, and right next to them we've got electronic man-made solar panels. They're doing the same thing, essentially in different ways. But the idea was to get enough power to run the farm from solar energy, which is a beautiful idea, which on a farm like this, the main pool of energy is coming from a cool room that's sucking a huge amount of energy. Behind that, we've got pumps, obviously, and we've got fans going inside our greenhouses to make sure the air is flowing. But there's no reason why a farm of this size cannot be run completely off solar energy, reducing our carbon footprint even more than it already is. So here at the farm we've got 2 permanent greenhouse structures, which over the summer period we use them to grow our really highly profitable crops such as tomatoes and cucumbers. Having the yield increase in a space like this per square foot is definitely worth, in our eyes, worth the investment. So we're pulling out cherry tomatoes and beefsteak tomatoes throughout the summer season, getting them very early to market. So sometimes we can get them in, say, late November, early December, and pushing that period for a good 5-6 months. So that's the idea. Field crops of tomatoes, you get a short amount of time out of them, having them in a greenhouse, and you can extend that season and be at market earlier and be at market later with those crops when other people don't have. And then in the winter period, these are about to get pulled out. So we're in end of May. We'll have a couple of weeks of winter tomatoes, which is super unique at the farmer's market. And then we're going to flip that and have it all in here for high rotation baby greens. So they're things we sell to restaurants, grocery stores, and the farmer's market. They bring back a really good yield per square foot, and the quality is enhanced dramatically by being in a structure like this. This system we're using here is called the clipper system. It came out of Holland, and we really enjoy it largely because there's no plastic involved. Most of the greenhouse tomato systems are based on plastic string, which is hugely costly to the environment. So at the end of the year, there's literally there's hundreds of meters, there's tens of kilometers worth of plastic string that essentially gets thrown out because it can't be sanitized properly. So these metal rods, they're a one-time purchase. They'll last us years and years. End of the season, we can simply sanitize them and reduce any disease pressure in the future. And also something which is very interesting is so we're releasing throughout the season, as you can see here. They're called Encarsia formosa, which is a parasitic wasp, and we're releasing parasitical wasps throughout the season to manage whitefly parasites and other issues, which again, having tomatoes grown in a greenhouse enables us to get on top of those issues because it's in a protected enclosed structure. Just so we've got a crop here behind me, it matures, we harvest it. At the end of that, some other farms will come in, let's just say there'll be crop residue, they'll till the crop residue in, apply their fertilizers, wait a period of time for the crop to break down, reform the bed, and then plant. Something like this for us, we'll be harvesting, crop residue, we'll simply rake away, remove by hand. That's been done. We'll then broad fork the bed. So imagine a garden fork but of a wider width. It's about the width of that bed, so 75 centimeters wide. And we'll gently fork the bed. Now that inserts into the soil and it lifts the soil up. It doesn't invert the soil. So it enables oxygen to get into the soil, but it won't invert the soil structure. So we're looking after the fungal life, the bacterial life, and making sure that our organic matter, which is on the top, is staying where we want it, not mixing to under and not bringing up a lot of our deep clay particles onto the top. So it's enabling that soil structure to develop quite naturally and enabling the biology essentially to do its work. That's doing a lot of the aeration for us. So there's no need to be going and doing mechanical tillage because essentially biological tillage is occurring by looking after the soil. After broad forking, we'll be applying some extra fertility. The main fertility we apply is an organic compost. We're applying quite a nice thick layer throughout the season after each crop. We put down a bit of chicken manure as well as a bit of a nitrogen hit, and then we essentially plant the crop in. So between a crop, so we call it a bed flip, between harvesting a crop, finishing the bed and replanting, we can sometimes get that done in a couple of hours. So again, we're looking at in a biologically intensive system. We can actually, in a single year, a bed like this could have sometimes 3 to 5, it could even have potentially 6, 7, 8, 9 crops in a year, depending on what we're growing. Where I know a lot of some of the larger scale farms, they might only get 1 or 2 crops out of a bed in a year. So that is enabling us per square foot to actually get a lot more value out of it, enabling us to therefore make the farm a lot more profitable. So while the no-till methodology is definitely one which has a lot of biological and ecological value to us, and that's why we do it. It's a value-based decision to do it. It also has a very strong managerial and ecological and financial, reasons for doing it. So that's a base. It's not a. Sometimes we're looking for big technologies to come in and do this. It's very simple principles, working with biological systems in order to create something which works for us at least in a very efficient way. Central to our system, obviously, all the plants start in here. Now we've decided to be producing the majority of our seedlings due to greater control. So we can choose, we can be selective of variety, it's easy with timing, and there's a bit more of extra security around what we have in place to be planting out. But the seeds for the seedlings are a mixture of some organic and some conventional. I think there's an issue in general with finding high quality seeds, but the industrial system does have a great number of varieties that work for commercial production. So a lot of consistency, a lot of vigour. And there are some companies in Australia which are producing some very high quality organic seeds. So we use them in our production system. And where we can't find them, we feel quite fine using conventional seeds and then raising them in an organic system. So it's not ideal, and I hope for the system, hopefully the Australian farming system changes so we'll be able to get a hold of better organic seeds. But in the meantime, this is what we've got, and it's taken us a while to obviously get the system down pat, but it works for us and definitely gives us, as I said, that control over our system. Well, yeah, that's essentially the end of the farm tour. I hope you all enjoyed, and I do my best to encourage all of you to get out there and read a lot of material about no-till farming, or I'd say farming that supports living soils. That's the main message that we're trying to do here. Is living soils, I think, create healthier crops and healthier systems.